What's up guys, CJ here and welcome back to another all-new Hybrid Network Star Wars video, and this time let's talk about that new Episode 8 title, The Last Jedi. Specifically, let's talk a little bit about what that means and the question kind of implicitly posed by that title. Who is
The Last Jedi?
Now, I've been thinking about this for the last week or so since they announced the title, and I've come up with 5 possibilities. 2 likely, 2 you'd probably call long shots, and 1 that is purely theoretical, but I really like it. So what I'm going to do for this video is break each option down, and then look at it as a kind of pie chart, almost, with each option taking up a percent of the pie based on what I estimate their chances are. Ready? Let's get started. Our first option is pretty much a no-brainer to be included in this, and that is Rey. Episode 7's heroine is already a powerful Force user, with a mysterious and potentially familial connection to the Skywalker bloodline. While we still don't have a trailer and actually still have very few official details about the movie, we've been hearing that Episode 8 will involve her training as a major storyline throughout the film, which makes sense given that the final shot of The Force Awakens was her finally finding Luke. With Luke presumably training Rey the way Yoda once trained him in the ways of the Force, all signs would seem to point to her becoming a Jedi as well, so if anything were to happen to Luke, then she would be right there in line as the last of the Jedi Order. There are some factors working against this theory though, but most of them have to do with the next option on the list, so overall I'll give Rey a 30% chance of being the Last Jedi. Close runner-up to the next option we'll discuss, her potential future Jedi Master, Luke Skywalker. In my opinion, Luke has by far and away the highest chance of being the Last Jedi for a few reasons. Reason number 1, he's literally the Last Jedi as of the end of Episode 7 and therefore kind of the beginning of Episode 8 since Rey hasn't yet received any potential future training. Reason number 2, if we look to the old EU as a guide, Luke in the new trilogy may have followed the same path he did in the old Legends canon EU, even if he did it for very different reasons. In the Legends canon, following the end of Return of the Jedi, having given into his anger but walking back from the dark side to the light by refusing to kill Vader, Luke rebuilds the Jedi Order with some major changes from the old one. Major changes like recognizing emotions as powerful but not restricting them as much as the old order did, allowing Jedi to marry and have children, and in general an order much less centralized than the old one, just to name a few differences. In the new canon, we haven't yet figured out exactly how Luke tried to put his order back together, though it's made clear in Episode 7 that he did try, but was apparently betrayed by his own nephew, Kylo, and the Knights of Ren, who may have also been former students of his. Whether it was before this betrayal, like in the old EU, or if it comes after it in the training of Rey, it's more than likely that Luke could be considered, or maybe considers himself, the last of the old Jedi. Reason number 3, he's literally referred to in the opening credits of The Force Awakens as the Last Jedi. The evidence for this theory in particular is pretty compelling, and I think there's more to this theory specifically than the other ones, so I'm gonna give Luke a 45% chance of being the Last Jedi. Not much of the pie left for the other 3 theories, but there's still some interesting stuff to be discussed. So looking at our third option, it's none other than, drumroll please, Kylo Ren. Yep, that's right, your boy Kylo, who you last saw slashed across the face and on the road to completing his training with Supreme Leader Snoke, which seemingly has him going the opposite way of becoming the Last Jedi. And most of this reasoning comes from a theory about Kylo returning to the light side, much like Vader himself was ultimately redeemed at the end of Return of the Jedi. In Episode 7, we really saw Kylo as a conflicted character, very much at odds with himself about the path that he's chosen, and while killing Han might have changed that, somehow I don't think it's going to be the cut and dry cure-all he thought it would be. But even if Kylo does come back to the light, with Rey and Luke still around, he certainly wouldn't be the Last Jedi, so in that case you'd have to have some of the more extreme fan theories kick in as well, like Rey falling to the dark side too. So overall, I'll give Kylo a 10% chance of being the Last Jedi. Weighing in as our fourth option, another one of The Force Awakens protagonists, Finn. Finn was not in good shape when we saw him last, in some sort of healing coma after being gravely wounded by Kylo Ren, but what we saw over the course of Episode 7 gives us maybe a little bit of evidence that he might be Force sensitive too, at the very least. I think the strongest evidence for that theory is that he not only wielded a lightsaber multiple times throughout the film, he wielded a lightsaber pretty well, even holding his own against a much more trained Kylo. I've seen more than a few people argue Kylo was just toying with them, and even if that's true, which it very likely is, to even be able to hold his own would suggest some sort of level of skill or force sensitivity. As is the case for Kylo, maybe a little bit ironically, for Finn to be the last Jedi, Rey would have to switch sides, and Luke would also have to kick the bucket at some point, and with both of those being slightly unlikely in my opinion, that leaves Finn with the same 10% chance as old Ben Solo. And now onto our fifth and final possibility, one that I personally thought of while researching for this video that I hadn't seen floating out there on the web, but I really like as kind of an extreme, long shot idea. What if the Last Jedi was Anakin Skywalker? And before you get too excited, hold your horses. I'm not suggesting Anakin is coming back to life or that Rey is his reincarnated form or something like that. What if, simply, in fulfilling the prophecy by killing the Emperor and returning to the light, Anakin was the last of the Jedi? As I referenced earlier when discussing Luke and the overwhelming likelihood of him being the titular last of the Jedi, in the old EU and probably in this new canon too, Luke drastically overhauls the Jedi Order, so much so that per a quote from the ghost of Obi-Wan himself in the book Heir to the Empire, Luke wasn't the last of the old Jedi, but rather the first of the new. That would potentially make a redeemed Anakin, with Obi-Wan's death in Episode 4 and Yoda's death in Episode 6, the last of the quote-unquote old Jedi right at the end of Return of the Jedi. And this would have massive implications in Episode 8. I mean, imagine how reality-altering it would be for Kylo to discover that the grandfather he worships in Darth Vader was redeemed, and was in fact the prophecy-fulfilling last of the Jedi Order. That could also be the first seed planted in Kylo's own return to the light, for what it's worth to fans of that particular theory. Overall, just for the sheer out-there-ness of this theory, I'll give it a 5% chance of happening, even though personally I really like it. I think it would make sense, I think it fits in with what's going on. It's still just a massive long shot. So let me know what you think of these options and who you think is the Last Jedi in the comment section down below, but that's going to do it for me here. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to smash that like if you like what you saw and subscribe for more great content every single day. Signing off, this is CJ, and I'll see you next time.